And you're listening to Tamara Scott with Truth for Our Time. Thank you for joining in. It is a beautiful fall day out there, and I don't know when you're going to be hearing this. Some of you join us live, 10 a.m. on Fridays. Thank you for those of you who join us at webcast1livestudios.com. Others of you hear us in central Iowa on the 99.3 KTIA Truth Network. Thank you for joining us in noon on Sundays, if that's what you can do. Great week last week. We'll recap that a little bit later in the show. Right now, I want to go to our phone line. We are blessed to have with us Roger Aronoff, if I'm saying his name correctly. He is with Accuracy in the Media, and heavens, don't we need several organizations trying to keep us with accuracy in the media. My goodness, after the debate last Monday night, I don't know how often I tweeted out about the interruptions of the moderator, and I wondered, in fact, did Hillary Clinton have to tap out when Lester Holt jumped in to help her by debating and arguing with Donald Trump? But I digress. We'll move forward. Roger Aronoff is joining me, Accuracy in Media. He's an editor there. He's also a writer with Barbed Wire, and he's a producer, producing 6 documentaries on things that we all care about, whether it's Confronting Iraq, Conflict and Hope, The Clinton Legacy, TWA 800, Search for Truth, The Fighting Words, The Tale of How Liberals Created the Neoconservatism. And he's also done a PBS show, Think Tank, with Ben Waltenberg. So we are, and I think he's a founding member of Citizens Commission for Benghazi. Just a variety of talents and gifts. We're honored to have Roger with us. Thank you for joining me, Roger. Roger, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, yes. I said thank you. Great to be with you today.
So I appreciate many of the things that you've already written about, and I'm now going to look forward to going back and reviewing some of those. Where can folks find this information, your documentaries or some of the other things that you've done? Where can folks find that? Is it Accuracy in Media or other places?
Yes, at AIM.org, Accuracy in Media, which is AIM.org. And if you go to the end of any one of my columns, it takes you to the full archive. Actually, the only one of those documentaries that's available online right now is the TWA 800. And if you go back in July, we had a press conference for the 20th anniversary of that, and they can see that one and go in and see that documentary. The others, a couple more we're going to put online soon, but otherwise they've been available through our AIM store for years, so, like that. But, yeah, that's where I write. I mean, the articles get picked up, like this piece that we're going to talk about today was up on Drudge yesterday. And anyway, but, yeah, it's been interesting career, interesting times, as you're suggesting, and I appreciate being on your show.
Well, thank you so much for accepting my offer so quickly as well, I might add. So the article that you've written, and folks, I have it on Truth for Our Time Facebook page, and as well as I think my own personal page, Tamara Scott. The article we're talking about is Obama's reckless plan threatens U.S. oversight. Obama's reckless plan threatens U.S. oversight of the Internet. And Roger, I believe that your article was probably one of the most comprehensive. You've gotten several links in there of other articles on this topic. But let's just start. This, we thought, might bring unity. We saw when Donald Trump made a statement, and you talk about it in your article, on the 21st of September. Then shortly around that time, Senator Ted Cruz endorsed Donald Trump. It brought them together. And Cruz noted that one of the reasons he endorsed Trump at this late date, was because of his defense of protecting the Internet.
Yes, and it's remarkable how little attention that got, or the whole subject, when so much is at stake. And yet, most people said, I never saw anything about it. And it's really quite incredible, but this is really a huge development. And Congress and the Senate, Mitch McConnell stripped language out of the continuing resolution that allowed this to go forward. And today is the final day of the contract between our Department of Commerce and Icann. Icann being the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. So as of tomorrow, unless there's one thing that's new since my article, which is that 4 attorney generals attorneys general from Texas and a few other states got together and filed a lawsuit in federal court to try to stop this transfer. And I don't know. I don't have much expectation that they're going to be successful, but that's the only avenue left at this point.
So 4 attorney generals filed lawsuit. We're thankful that they did. September 27th was, I believe, the day of the, the resolution. What's the term I'm looking for that they voted on?
Continuing resolution.
Thank you so much. Continuing resolution. And it was in that one that Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky, actually stripped that language out. I think I also have a link on Truth for Our Time with Senator Mike Lee. It's about 12 minutes long. And if you can afford 12 minutes of your time, you'll find out what his issues were with this continuing resolution as well. We've got issues in D.C. We absolutely know it, which I think is why we see Donald Trump gaining, no matter what the media or some of those in D.C. try and come out against him. It seems to just backfire because of situations like this. So, Roger, try to explain to us. We have folks who will be listening today at 10 o'clock. We have folks that will listen noon Sunday, so it'll have already happened, unfortunately, if it's not stopped. But try to explain the severity of what this is to folks.
Okay, so this is Icann was created back in 1998, and the idea was to assign names and to sort of maintain the purity, if you will, of the Internet, so that if you have a domain name like
TamaraScott.com, how about that?
Yes, there you go. And that when someone types that in, it will actually go to that site. But now, such things as .mil for military and .gov, we are no longer going to have the control over that. So it could possibly evolve over the next year or 2 or 5 that somebody else is going to, Russia or China or someone is going to make it so if you type in departmentofdefense.gov, it's going to go to some other website that we don't even know or have any control over. Now, many in the media, Washington Post fact-checked Ted Cruz, and they're saying, there's much ado about nothing. There's really very little is going to change, and there's nothing to be alarmed about. And people who say we're giving away control of the Internet are foolishly exaggerating the situation. But here's the deal. This has been basically a monopoly on this, Icann, but the fact that it was tied to the Department of Commerce gave it sort of an antitrust exemption. Now it is out there on its own. So people may say, well, that's a monopoly, they can't do that, so we need to tie it to some governmental entity, which why not let it be the United Nations? And I think most of your listeners probably that wouldn't give a whole lot of confidence to that the UN is going to have a hand in running this and controlling this. And the greater concern is that they may say, well, look, you cannot say anything that is offensive to Islam or something like that, or start coming on with things that says you can't say that. I think conservative groups in particular, after seeing how the IRS treated them, are very concerned that, maybe not in the first year or the second year, but not too far down the line, they may start censoring the speech and the websites. And so there's a lot of concern. In other words, the U.S. will become just one of many stakeholders in this, have one vote, where today, through our Department of Commerce, we are sort of a check on this thing being run properly. And others say, yeah, well, this is just a managerial issue. It's really got nothing to do with content. I from reading it and all the concerns about it, I'm very concerned. One letter that we link to in the article is from a number of national security professionals, Frank Gaffney, Admiral Ace Lyons, and Tom McInerney, who were both on our Citizens Commission for Benghazi. and they are very concerned that this is going to, with the concern I said about the .mil and the .gov, plus you have the factor of cyber warfare and how this is going to affect that, and it very well could have a very serious effect. And I urge people to, when they read this article, click on that link and see this letter that these people, very prominent people, have put together expressing great concern about this transfer. And it fits in with Obama's sort of trust in, the UN and multinational forces and, like our great coalition that's fighting and destroying ISIS. 66 countries supposedly are doing this, and as it's grown from one country to 20-some-odd countries now. And then, again, trusting Obama. Here's the man who said, look, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your insurance policy, you can keep your insurance policy. And they've given us this Iran deal, which they talk about as it's some kind of sacred deal. Well, the fact is, it's not even signed. And most people aren't aware of that because you still have today, just in the last couple of weeks, I've seen Wolf Blitzer, the New York Times, even Brett Baer and President Obama, of course, refer to as a signed deal. But there's a letter. If you go again in this article at the end, I have a link to this, to an article I did on the Iran deal, that you can see a letter from the State Department acknowledging that it was never signed, and it's not an executive treaty. It just, what we can depend on is the inspections regime, which is absurd. But anyway.
So, and for our listeners, that is in the last paragraph of this article. The article is entitled Obama's Reckless Plan Threatens U.S. Oversight of the Internet. I'm talking with Roger Aronoff, Aronoff. Aronoff is the spelling of his last name. You might find this article. I said I have it on my Facebook page, Truth for Our Time, also on Tamara Scott. But also you can find it at GOP USA, Barbed Wire, and Drudge. And Roger, I want to talk as well. Icann, for those who may not know, is the Internet Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers. So it's who assigns names and the numbers. And I think it was Patent, who is a former chief of information officer at the White House. But her point is, why do this 6 weeks before an election when things are already up in the air? If this is such a minor clerical change, why force this through so quickly now?
Right. She makes the point that if the website is hacked, as we've seen many of these hacked, the DNC was hacked just a couple days before they started their convention, and now we may have more trouble holding the responsible party accountable if this occurs. And I think there's a lot of nervousness right now about the voting process and who's, with all these early voting, who's minding the ballots for all these months and weeks ahead of time. And then we've already seen evidence of dead people voting in Arizona, and the guy up in Washington who killed 4 people last week turned out he's not supposed to be allowed to vote, but he voted 3 or 4 times, and they have a law that you can't ask people to prove they're citizens to vote. So there's so many things about that already, and then this on top of it just makes people feel, what if this is another razor-thin election result? Are we really going to be able to trust this? So,
Roger, we've got to go to a break here shortly. Can you stay with us just a few minutes after the break?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. I'm visiting with Roger Aronoff. You're listening to Tamara Scott on Truth for Our Time. With news you can use. When the headlines hit home, we help you live God's Word in today's world. But there's more on this topic, and I want to bring it to you as to who will be getting this power when this deal goes through and why so many are concerned about it. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. I broke early. Does that get us back on schedule?
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Oh, I'm busy typing something out. Sorry about that. I am Tamara Scott. You caught me off guard. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to Truth for Our Time as we help you live God's Word in today's world. I was trying to find something for a note on October 2nd, this Sunday, is Family Research Council's Pulpit Sunday, meaning that we're not going to allow the IRS to silence us, and pastors are encouraged to speak out and speak the truth. And I thought that was fitting with what we're talking about today, because I'm talking with Roger Aronoff on the silencing of the internet, the surrender of the internet, and the control from the United States under the Department of Commerce and the First Amendment protections that are there for all of us, going to foreign countries possibly. And so I want you to remember, you can find more information at Family Research Council. If you're a pastor, I encourage you, this week is the week to speak out, speak truth, and do not let the IRS intimidate you as they have done in the past. I also would tell you, as my friend Jan Michelson, a host on WHO, the 50,000 watt station here in Iowa, I got to be with him again. It's good to have him back at the microphone after a long rehabilitating period after his stroke. But he said, after Hillary Clinton called us all deplorables and irredeemables, I encourage every church congregation to sing the song, I Am Redeemed, this Sunday. So if you're listening to this on Sunday, you've had your church service likely in the morning, but if you go back for an evening service, what a great time to sing Redeemed by the Blood of the Lamb, because all of us, it is our only hope to be redeemed by the blood of the Lamb in Jesus Christ. And God does not care about our past, but He wants to give us all a future through that promise. All right, so I wanted to bring that in because it fits. We're talking about those who want to surrender our control of the internet. And our founding fathers knew that First Amendment, the very first Bill of Rights we had, giving us the right of liberty of religion, expression, to exercise that faith however we chose, and our ability to have free speech, that all matters. And we're dealing with that very topic right now. Roger, this article that you've written, Obama's Reckless Plan Threatens U.S. Oversight of the Internet. Today, September 30th, when we're doing this show, is the last day for our congressional members and senators to do something other than a lawsuit that may be happening with the attorney generals. And so for our listeners out there, I'm going to tell you, 515-244-3121, is that it, my friend? 515-244, I know I have it written in my book. I believe it's 3121, and I'll check and make sure I'm right. But that gets you to any office in the U.S., Senate, or Congress. And so, Roger, on this, as I mentioned, this has the internet has somewhat fallen under the First Amendment. But if this change takes place, it will no longer have the protections for all of us under the First Amendment. Is that correct?
Well, that's right, because the First Amendment is an American institution. It doesn't exist elsewhere, and so that means that Icann would be free to regulate internet speech. They can restrict websites, and look, the Chinese already do restrict web access in their country, and they have said, look, if the U.S. is really prepared to give up this control, we're eager to jump in, and they've been passing very authoritarian laws that are really giving a picture of the direction this whole thing is headed toward. And as I said earlier, I think one of the likely scenarios is that the UN will become the body that will replace the U.S. government through the Department of Commerce to be that governmental body that it will be tied to. And I think with their actions on many fronts, I think we should be very concerned about what they will allow to be published on the internet and what they won't be. And so again, there's many papers and people leading in Congress who say, oh, there's nothing to worry about this. This is just who manages giving out the name of so-and-so.com or .gov, and it really doesn't affect the content. But I have very little confidence that that's the case. And when you read through my article, you'll see some very distinguished people who have strongly weighed in on this, who do believe that the content will be affected. And again, it may not be in the first few months, and so Obama will be able to disavow any ownership of it when it happens under somebody else, and he can say, well, when I left it was still a free internet, and that sort of thing. But here it goes, and the problem, who are we, the U.S., why should we be the ones in control of this? When it started, most of the people who went on the internet were in the U.S. Today, with China and India and all these other places, we're a much smaller proportion of it, but we have done a very good job of keeping it open and honest and fair and free for the most part. And, I think most people feel that that's the way it should stay, unless there's some really valid reason not to. They're concerned that, look, the internet would fracture, and they each would start its own sort of internet if we don't give up this power. And look, Obama has apologized for this country on many occasions, and I think this is another apology saying, I'm sorry, that we've hogged this for all this time, and now all of us can share in it. I think most of us here and listening to this show would feel that it's in much safer hands, even with an Obama or a Hillary in power, if that happens, then to put it out there as it's about to go into sort of the vast unknown. And we don't know where it'll be 2-3 years from now.
But you're right. If it's under American authority, we at least have our checks and balances. We have Congress. We have the judicial system, which, by the way, First Amendment, which, by the way, in your article, Brett Schaefer and Paul Rosenzweig of the Heritage Daily Signal have already raised concerns because that Icann may be too corrupt to take on these additional duties, because earlier this year, Icann was, and again, for those of you who don't know what Icann is, it is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, but that corporation was already taken to court regarding its failure to follow proper procedures in awarding the .Africa domain name. They write the dilemma arose from Icann's board's attempt to improperly appease governments who had objected to that original delegation. So already we're seeing that this is not going to be neutral. Sometimes they feed us this idea that if it's a global thing that everybody's going to agree. And I think what you and I are seeing is that, especially with the UN, certain countries will just be under threat that much more, and they will not have the safeguards that we've enjoyed in America with our First Amendment, with our expressions of liberty and being able to have our free speech. We enjoy it like nobody else in this world has ever had before us. And I don't think we understand all we risk if this should happen. Roger, they keep putting in place, they keep mentioning, and you mentioned it in your articles, that China, Iran, and Russia would increase in power as the U.S. decreased. Those three countries, is it because of how much input they have on the internet? Why those three countries? And of course, those are the three countries we all know where there's human rights violations and folks don't have their freedom.
Yeah, and those are three countries that are very aggressive, expansive in their goals. You look in the South China Sea, what China's doing there, Russia pushing up against the NATO countries and that area, and Iran has its eyes on the whole Persian Gulf region, and all three of those are countries that are taking great advantage of the absence of U.S. leadership militarily and diplomatically throughout the region, throughout their respective regions, and I think that's why those three countries bring up a special concern that look, they are going to be aggressively trying to gain control and to block anything that is critical of them, and we seem to have laid down on the job, and in many ways it's kind of made it easy for them to do what they're doing, and they're not being challenged. I mean, again, when Iran comes in and boards our boats and puts our men at gunpoint with their hands behind their head, this while we're trying to do a deal that gives them $150 billion and a path to nuclear weapons, and they humiliate us. And again, it's because we don't really have any recourse because there's nothing signed between us, and we're pretending that there is this deal, and he pretends that it's working. So yeah, those three countries have a particular cause of concern on this deal as well.
So, Roger, thank you so much for joining us today. And I did not realize that the Iran deal was not signed. Part of me that gives me hope that maybe we can somehow yet undo it.
Right.
So I didn't even realize that. I thank you for bringing us that information. Thank you for bringing us the information on the internet, what we're dealing with. Goose is my producer. Would you put that number up again for those who are watching? 202-244-3121. 202-224-3121. Always a number you can call to reach any of your congressional delegates, your senators or your congressional members in D.C. And Roger, quickly, what would you have them say to their members if they sent them an email today or if they quickly called them?
Well, I don't know if it's too late or not. It seems like it is. I think Congress has gone out of town, and unless the attorneys general have any success, I don't know that it's going to stop. But I would urge your listeners to come visit our website, aim.org, sign up to receive our daily emails. I think you'll find them very interesting and informative. And tomorrow, I want to thank you. You've got a great show there, and I really appreciate what you're doing. And yes, but stay active. Do contact your congressman and your local newspapers and try to bring them in line.
Roger, thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words, but thank you for what you're doing, whether it's the documentaries that you've done in the past that I do think would be very beneficial for most of us to see, or the information that you've yet to write this year and coming years, and especially as we come into this 6 weeks finishing out the election. I thank you for what you're sharing with the rest of us. Please continue your work as well, and if you ever have anything you want to get out to listeners and viewers, I hope you will contact me.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Blessings.
Take care.
Blessings to you.
To you as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Listeners, there you have it. You've gotten good information today on something that you can make a difference on, and it's not too late. It's never too late. Yes, we should have done it earlier, but there's so many things pressing with this election and with everything else facing us. But that phone number, as always, is 202-244-3121, 202-224-3121. And if your legislators have come back into the state, even better, talk to them in person. But this is something we need to get corrected. We need to maintain. Our founding fathers, I said it earlier, and at the time I thought, why am I bringing this in today? But our founding fathers, they knew what made better Christians, made better citizens. They knew that it was God the Father, his protection and their reliance upon him that helped them to create this great nation. And they knew that when you had those values instilled as a Christian, you would be a better citizen and could have less laws. Therefore, you had more liberty. That's why they wrote in the Declaration of Independence that your inalienable rights were endowed by your Creator. Because if man gave you those rights, man can take them away. But if they're from God, no one can take them from you. But remember, China has the same rights, and they don't get to celebrate them because their government didn't give honor to God. It's important, and it makes a difference. We're going to be right back with Voiceless producer Jason Jones. Stay tuned. Truth for Our Time, 99.3 FM.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And you're listening to Tamara Scott with Truth for Our Time. We help you when the headlines hit home, helping you live God's Word in today's world, because if He expects you to live through it, friends, He has directed you how to do it somewhere in His Word. And if I can find it quick enough, I want to just read a quick scripture for you that I thought was appropriate for today, and it's one that has encouraged me many times along the way. Now, of course, we can assume that they're talking about the gospel here in keep talking, but I think it's very appropriate for what we're talking about today. It is Acts 18, verse 9. This is what Paul saw in a vision from the Lord. One night the Lord spoke to Paul in a vision, "Do not be afraid. Keep on speaking. Do not be silent." Verse 10, "For I am with you. No one is going to attack you and harm you because I have many people in the city." Imagine if we went through with that boldness. Imagine if we stood firm because we knew God had our back. Keep speaking. Keep talking. So we just spoke with Roger Aronoff about the internet and the freedoms we may lose there. If it does, indeed, the power is turned over to Icann and to foreign powers, being Russia, China, and Iran. Think that through right there. So there's your free speech at stake. I just told you about our founding fathers and what they saw and why we have more freedom of speech than any other country on the face of this earth. Talked to you about Pulpit Sunday being October 2nd. If your pastors didn't boldly speak today, when you go to church tonight, remind them why they should have, and they can do it any other Sunday if they missed it on October 2nd. Which I think falls very well into our next guests. I have Jason Jones, who is the producer of the latest movie, Voiceless. Speaking of sharing and speaking the truth, Voiceless. And Tim Overland is in studio. Tim is with Personhood Iowa. Thank you, Tim, for joining me.
Thanks for having us in, Tamara.
Jason, you're on phone. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Aloha. How are you doing?
Very good. I hear you are from Hawaii. That's something that makes us all a little envious in Iowa, though we've had a beautiful summer and fall. So right now I hear you're in Florida, another sunshiny state, but you are with Movie to Movement, correct?
I am, yes.
And is that
I love Iowa, by the way. Love Iowa. I lived in Iowa for a bit.
Oh, you did?
I did.
But didn't love it enough to stay. Hawaii.
Well, I was there running a presidential campaign, but my family loved it. We talk about Iowa fondly all the time.
Well, very good, and we welcome you back at any point you like to come. We don't have mountaintops or beaches, but we have great, great people, and as you mentioned, they are politically plugged in all the time, every year.
Yeah.
So, Voiceless. Talk to us about Voiceless. Why the movie? Why now?
Well, the Voiceless, behind every movie, there's just somebody that's passionate about the message of the film. Any movie ever made that takes one person filled with passion, even if from the Passion of the Christ to Sharknado, because making movies is a really challenging thing. But Voiceless comes from the heart of Stuart Migden. Stuart Migden is a Messianic Jew, devout Christian, who's passionately pro-life, and he wanted to make a movie that inspired the church to stand up and to live in solidarity and to defend the dignity, to live in solidarity with young women in crisis pregnancies and to stand up and defend the preborn child from the violence of abortion. And being in the film business, and some of my films, like Bella, caught a lot of people's attention. So Stuart came to me very early on in the process. But I just was so busy and I wasn't paying him attention. And then he put together this brilliant project. And I have never been more excited about a film. And I don't know if you've seen our film Bella, but our movie Bella was my first film, so it means a lot to me. Came out in theaters 9 years ago. And our goal with that film was to know the name of one baby whose mother chose life from our film. One night within 10 years of being in theaters. Oh. Well, it's been 9 years, and we've received over 1,000 letters from women who saw Bella and chose life. Well, with Voiceless, the goal of Bella is to get women to stand up and choose life. And the goal of Voiceless is to really get the church to stand up and defend life. Students for Life of America recently came out with a poll that showed it's just a small minority of churches that have pro-life ministries. And we hope that after Voiceless hits theaters, that every God-fearing, Bible-believing church in America stands up for life. And we're really grateful to Personhood Iowa, because actually Iowa is our best state. And it's thanks to Personhood Iowa and their partner organizations that have really taken the lead to say we're going to use this film as an instrument and to wake up our churches. But I'll say this, it's a gritty, beautiful film. It reminds me of the first Rocky. Soulful, it's beautifully shot, the acting's amazing, very entertaining. But while people are being entertained and inspired, we hope that it also encourages them to change maybe how they've been living and actually follow the lead of groups like Personhood USA and Family Leader and Stand Up for Life.
So, Tim Overland, this is in theaters here in the area October 7th.
Yeah, it opens October 7th. We're actually going to have some private screenings on October 8th, and we'll have that in 7 cities around the state of Iowa. It's on our Facebook page. You can go to Eventbrite and get your tickets. But we've got private screenings. We'll talk with folks about the movie, about the message, and give them an outlet because you'll come out of that with as much energy as Jason, and I think you want to have somewhere to apply that. So we're going to have ministries, pregnancy centers, those type of things in each one of these cities to help you point that energy in the proper direction.
And of course, Tim has created quite a coalition. CWA, Concerned Women for America, did that years ago at the State House. I think we were the first group to bring so many of the pro-life organizations together. They were stunned that we would invite all of them at the same time, and we did. And you've carried it on very, very well. You've done a great job of bringing groups together in that aspect. So if you are not active right now, there are many groups in Iowa. We can get you started. Voiceless will be in theaters October 7th.
It'll start on October 7th. That's opening weekend. We would love to see people come out to our private screenings on October 8th, and those will be at the 7 o'clock showing. And we're pretty much got most of the corners of the state covered. We've got West Des Moines, Council Bluffs, Sioux City, Fort Dodge, Cedar Falls, Iowa City, and Davenport. I think I got them all.
And of course, here we talked earlier today about our First Amendment liberties, and of course, the ultimate civil right is examining the right to life. Without the right to life, liberty means little.
Right.
And that was in the Declaration of Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness, in our Declaration of Independence.
Life is first.
Life is first. Now, Jason, did you realize that today, we're having you on the show today, is the Hyde Amendment, the 40th anniversary?
I did, and sort of on that vein, I have something I think Tim knows, something really exciting to share. On Sunday, we had petitioned the Supreme Court that we wanted to have our premiere, not a big Hollywood premiere. I wanted to do something special. So we petitioned the Supreme Court that we wanted to premiere on the steps of the Supreme Court, to put up a screen, put up big speakers, and invite everyone in Washington, D.C. to see the premiere of Voiceless for free. And we were initially rejected. Our lawyers did whatever they do. They filed motions, petitions, whatever. But now it's been approved. So on October 2nd at the Supreme Court, Voiceless will be the first movie ever to premiere at the Supreme Court. No one's ever done this before.
Are we breaking this on our show?
I'm sorry?
Are we breaking this news on our show?
You are breaking this news, yeah.
In Iowa, for sure.
and I kind of feel like a bear. Bears scrape the bark off trees to let you know this is their territory, and I feel like I'm going to the Supreme Court and saying this is our territory. And that Damon, this great musicologist from Athens, said that, give me the songs of a nation and I care not who writes its laws. And I say we're going to the Supreme Court to say we overrule you, and we say that every human being deserves full legal protection from violence, especially the most members of the human family, the most vulnerable members of the human family, which is the child in the womb. But yeah, I'm really excited, and by God's grace, this is happening. I don't know how we pulled this off, but we're grateful.
So Voiceless is going to be shown October 2nd, this Sunday evening, at the steps of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. What time?
Yes, at 7 o'clock.
7 p.m. Eastern Time. And
That's
so
right.
if you've got friends out in D.C., I'm asking you to get an email to them, a phone call to them, a text to them. Make sure they know that they might go and make a great showing themselves of support as this movie takes place on the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court. We've got to go to break. Can the two of you hang on for just a little bit?
I got a few minutes.
Jason, do you have just a few minutes to pass us
I sure can.
All right.
I sure can.
Listeners, we'll be right back after these messages. We're helping you live God's Word in today's world, because if He expects you to live through it, He's directed you how to do it.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Scott.
For staying tuned with Truth for Our Time as we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. Talking with Jason Jones, Movie to Movement. We're talking about the new movie Voiceless coming out October 7th. And of course, in Iowa, Tim Overland with Personhood would like you to attend one of their private screenings, and they can find more information on that at
personhoodiowa.com or our Facebook page. There's some links on there where you, if you're not in Des Moines, in Des Moines too, but in any one of those cities, you can just, there's links to Eventbrite where you can find it. Otherwise, if you just go to eventbrite.com and search for Voiceless in Iowa, it'll get you to, you can find one of the cities that's closest to you.
Today on our Facebook page for Concerned Women for America, we have posted some information on the Hyde Amendment 40 years ago today, the Hyde Amendment, and we have studies that show 2 million lives have been saved because of the Hyde Amendment, and 60% of Americans do not want their money going to fund the killing of fellow Americans simply because they're in the womb. Think this through. Moms and dads are doing all they can to afford gas in the car, food on the table, and they shouldn't be forced to pay for the killing of someone else's child. If you're listening and if you've had an abortion, we are in no way speaking any condemnation to you whatsoever. If it hurts your heart to even hear this conversation, I want you to know if something makes you feel bad, that's condemnation from the evil one who wants to keep you pinned down and keep you in bondage over past mistakes. But Jesus Christ, as we said at the beginning of the show, through the blood of Jesus Christ, wants to forgive you. No matter what it is, there is forgiveness available. And through that forgiveness, that conviction that you feel is released, and there is a freedom, and you will be freed then to take that pain and turn it into pleasure for His good, for His kingdom, and helping others find their way past that pain. So women, there is no way, no judgment here. We want to help you heal from that pain. If you've had an abortion, Tim, myself, we've got others who can help you. Laura Limix in Ankeny can help you with that ministry. And this is only to get the truth out so more are not harmed, more are not killed in the womb, and more are not harmed by suffering through, whether it be women or men who have lost babies, grandbabies, sisters, and brothers through what we've allowed to happen in America. Jason, what would you like to say? Anything else to folks as we have this 40th anniversary of the Hyde Amendment, but also your movie coming out, Voiceless?
Well, I know if you're listening to this show, you're the officers in the culture war, and our nation is not going to survive another 40 years of Roe versus Wade, because Roe versus Wade denies the founding principle of this nation, that we're endowed by God with inalienable rights. And so really, the race to protect the preborn child from the violence of abortion is the race to save our republic. And there's no more powerful way to wake up folks and inspire them through a major motion picture. It brings in all of the developments in art, from everything from construction to acting and music, And this film is so powerful, and it's an opportunity we have right now to really inspire our community. So I'd ask that you join with Personhood Iowa, and let's make this film a success. If we have a big opening week, we can end up in thousands of theaters. I worked on a film called 2016 Obama's America. We were actually stuck on one screen for 3 weeks. But because it was doing so well, we eventually ended up on over 2,000 screens. And that really changes, that really had an impact. And we want to do the same thing with Voiceless.
Thank you for your work, Jason, and I appreciate what you've done and your ability and your skill and your gifting from the Lord that you're using for His glory, to bringing more truth out there to folks who may not take time to read, but they'll see it in the visual, and it will make such a different impact and a deeper impact. Thanks, and may the Lord bless you in what you do. And are you going to be in D.C. then on Sunday?
I am, yes.
I'm so envious. That's incredible. Good for you.
I can't wait. In fact, just before I came on here, some of my employees, I said, you're all welcome to come. And they're like, well, they're pricing it out. They're saying, this is kind of expensive to fly us all to D.C. I said, this is a historic moment. And I wanted all my employees and staff to have the opportunity to be there and participate in it. When I was 17 years old, when in basic training, my high school girlfriend's father forced her to have an abortion. And whenever I look at those steps of the Supreme Court, I think that this is where my child died. Not in 1989 when the forced abortion happened, but in 1973. And so what a privilege to go on those very steps and show our film that celebrates the beauty and dignity of not only the child in the womb, but that child's mother as well.
So, Jason, you just confessed that you've lost a child to abortion to everybody out there. You were one of those dads that I talked about earlier. I didn't even know it. But I don't think this is just it, folks. If you're listening, you have no idea. The person you meet at the grocery store, the fast food store, across the pew in church. What do we say is 1 out of 3 women over 40 have suffered an abortion. Mm-hmm. And in so many instances like yours, Jason, you were allowed no voice. Your child was taken from you with no voice. I am so sorry for your loss. And for everyone out there, this is what we're dealing with. We are mourning as a nation the loss of our fellow Americans that were taken simply because they were in the womb and it was easy and clean to do so. This is no easier, no better than what we allowed in the Holocaust. The only difference is there are not smokestacks on our abortion clinics. Shame on us. And it is time, Americans, I ask you to rise up with me, no matter your past, no matter what you've dealt with, what you've thought about. It is time to turn a new leaf. You've seen the light. There's been truth. We've now had ultrasounds that we didn't have in 73 to prove what the Bible always knew. There is no condemnation, but there is freedom in conviction and conversion. And we ask you to step forward with us. Seek Jesus Christ right now. If you're hurting, ask Him to heal your pain, come into your life and be the Lord of your life. And you will feel a difference and you will see a difference. And if you ask Him to be in your life, you will know it. He will make Himself known to you. I promise it. Tim, I had no idea I was going here. Jason, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you guys for your work.
Thanks, Jason.
God bless.
Oh, listeners, the problem with video, you can see my red nose behind the microphone. Tim, you and I don't agree on everything this political cycle, but this we agree on, and this we will work on together. And this is what Christians should do. Save the harsh words so that you can work on those things that you know you agree on together. You don't agree with your spouse on everything. You never will. I don't agree with myself on some things, depending on the day. But this is why we must walk forward in forgiveness of offenses, love of Jesus Christ, so that we can save. And I know you are the personhood. It's the gold standard. I am as well, but I will do whatever I can to save a few until we can save them all. Did I say that right?
I think so.
All right. Well, listeners, it has been a full show. And again, October 2nd, this next Sunday, if you're listening on Sunday, was Pulpit Sunday. If your pastor missed it, I beg you to lovingly, not judgmentally, not I told you so, not in your face, lovingly go to him and wake him up and teach him what he needs to be doing, because those liberties are at stake. And this is where Tim and I set apart. But Trump has brought on Susan B. Anthony's leader, Marjorie Danis Felser, gives me great hope and confidence. She is a go-getter on the life issue and putting people on the street to get others who elected who will support life, and then she holds them accountable if they don't. And Trump has put that coalition together, as well as his Christian conservative coalition, of which I, Jan Michelson, Steve Scheffler, and Jamie Johnson are working to help grow and to keep things accountable. You've been encouraged, folks. Now, please never be complacent. That God's put you here on this earth for this time, for his purpose. Make it count. Make a difference. Thanks for listening.